All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. As promised, we have Congressman Jeff Landry on the set of Bayou Time, and certainly, Congressman, we know you have a busy schedule, and we appreciate you being here for sure.
Always have time for y'all.
All right, well, thank you so much. Before we talk real business in Washington, your area was sort of shocked this week by that murder in Thibodeau, and I want to sort of get your thoughts on it and your opinion, and when did you first hear about it, and man, it just hadn't settled in yet.
Well, I got it the way most people get it. All of this kind of news is, over programs just like this on news outlets. My prayers certainly go out to the mother and the family. I mean, it is horrific when an individual will take someone else's life, someone innocent like that child. It is terribly disturbing and upsetting. This community has the right to be upset.
Yeah, and what you were hearing me say, it's just that's something that takes a community and really puts the limelight on something that's negative instead of putting it on something that's constructive and could be positive.
Right. So, yeah, it's these are the kind of tragedies that scar communities. When you have people who will just decide to take innocent lives like that, it shouldn't be tolerated in this community and any society in the United States.
Well, we appreciate your thoughts on that. Now let's switch gears a little bit. You've been having fun in Washington because we've been watching. Y'all been through some tough times.
It's been tough. I can tell you. It's been a very trying experience, but I've enjoyed serving the people here in the 3rd Congressional District.
You didn't know when you got elected that you would have so many things that would be so critical in a couple of years. Y'all have had quite a bit of things.
We have had just one issue after another, and it seems like every time we get over one, here comes another one. We're going to have one in 45 days. Our budget runs out September 30th. We'll be back to fighting over the budget again. It's like you can't come up for air. But the only resolve I get is to come back home and get some mud between my toes, and then I'm ready to go back.
I bet you feel like a senior member now, don't you?
Oh, we've learned a lot. I mean, it's amazing. You coming in with a large class, and I can tell you viewers out there that this freshman class is just absolutely a wonderful bunch of individuals. People who certainly put their constituencies and their country above any political games that go on in Washington. And of course, you've seen some of the results that have come out of that. We still got some ways to go, but I have some optimism.
I think Jason has some tape he's going to roll in, and you actually got to hold the gavel and do some pretty good stuff up there while you were there, and we'll talk about that. But there you are, right there. How did that feel?
That was interesting. It certainly was exciting. This all started back around Memorial Weekend when Senator Vitta and 22 other senators sent a letter to us asking us to keep the House in recess so the Senate wouldn't recess. Thereby, the president couldn't make recess appointments. And Senator Vitta said, Jeff, I think the freshman class would latch on to this. And so I took a letter, drafted it up, and circulated amongst the members, and we got 77 freshmen to sign on to it. And the Speaker was gracious enough to allow us to keep the House open, which will keep the Senate in session. And I can tell you, I've even had some freshman colleagues of mine who, when we were trying to put the schedule together, because the Speaker said, look, this is your baby, you got to put the schedule together, who wasn't quite excited about doing it, about leaving home during recess, coming back to Washington just for that. They've called and said, how do I get a piece of that action?
Now, something I saw you do, and it just hit me, that we don't have enough of in Washington. You made the sign on the cross and y'all were praying. We need more of that in Washington.
Yeah, we certainly do. It has been comforting, though. The House chaplain is actually a Catholic priest, which is certainly heartwarming as a Catholic. But certainly there are men of all faiths in Congress, and I can tell you, look, the South Carolina delegation, who are mostly Protestant. I remember when they were getting ready for the debt ceiling vote, they went off. We've got a chapel inside of the Capitol reserved just for members where we can pray, and it is an area where we can gain some hopefully some faith and ask the good Lord to help us make the right decisions.
I don't care how you pray. as long as you pray.
That's
All right.
exactly right.
All right, let's jump into it. The debt ceiling, my God, we would get home, and I was glued to the TV. I could feel the tension. I could feel what was going on. First of all, just for the record, most people know, but how did you vote on that? And what was all the behind-the-scenes ranking that was going on? And tell me about it.
Well, to try to do it quickly and explain to people, we actually had 3 pieces of legislation that came before us. The first one was cut, cap, and balance, which I wholeheartedly supported. It made real cuts. It capped spending to about 20% of GDP, and it forced a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. And it was a great piece of legislation. I have no doubt that if that legislation would have been taken up in the Senate and the president would have signed it, we would not have been downgraded. Then we went from there over to the Speaker's bill, and he tried to model it under cut, cap, and balance, but he didn't add the balanced budget amendment passage. And so that was kind of the late night negotiations. A bunch of us were holding out. He finally agreed to add that provision in there, which was a remarkable achievement.
But they had Democrats holding out on that also, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. No, well, the cut, cap, and balance was a bipartisan bill. We got Democrats to vote for that first one. Then the Speaker added that. We sent it back to the Senate. That still wasn't good enough. And then we finally ended up with the president and the Senate Democrats compromise, which I did not vote for. And I told him, I said, I'm just, my credibility at home with people is much more important than anything in Washington, D.C., and I'm not going to vote for anything that downgrades this country.
Did you feel like Boehner had lost? And I know it's a tough position for you to criticize your own leader, but like you said, you didn't vote for it because you had to come home to your constituents. Did you feel a lot of them were doing that, or were they sort of caving in to get him at least a yes vote so that it wouldn't look so bad against the Democratic side?
There was a lot of pressure put on members. But, you know, we held firm. And I can tell you, I've spoken to some of those members who voted yes, and they are not having a good time on their recess.
Oh, you better, I bet they were welcomed when not the welcome they wanted. Huh?
It's just a spending problem, Martin. I mean, you just can't continue to spend. And, you know, we hear all this about raising taxes and ending the Bush era tax cuts. And that is just a drop in the bucket to the spending problem. It's like taking home $30,000 a year but spending $45,000 and then asking the boss for a raise to make up the difference. And if you raise the taxes like the president would like, close the loopholes, tax the oil companies, you'd only raise another $3,000 a year in equivalent to the scenario I put. That would get you 30. That's only a fifth of the way there. Mm-hmm. You know, the spending is just out of control.
You've been pretty vocal as a freshman going up there, but of course that's what you campaigned about. You said, I'm going to hit the ground running. You've testified in front of committees, big committees on oil and gas and energy and different things of that nature. How do you feel that you've done in your first stint up there, or you're getting your point across like you wanted to?
Look, I think we are getting our point across. We have had a voice. It's a voice with an accent. That's what I tell them. You know, we have made some strides. You know, we were able to get Director Bromwich to start to loosen up the permitting process on P&A work. Every time we hold a hearing, he seems to issue another exploration permit. We've gotten some places with the Corps of Engineers, not nearly where we need to be. But I think all in all, people are recognizing our voice. Look, I told people on the campaign trail that I would walk the halls of Congress selling Louisiana to the rest of the country, and I do it every chance I get.
And I hear you got some of them even switching to seersucker suits. Is that true?
That's right. We even got some Yankees that are putting seersucker suits on.
I'm going to have to go buy one. They tell me it's cool. I'm going to have
to
try
it is. I tell you, that sun is hot in Washington, D.C.
It's hot over here, too. All right, we're going to take a break, Congressman. When we come back, we're going to talk oil and gas. There's a lot to talk about. The Power Act, natural resources, the repeal of Obamacare, coastal restoration, and I'm going to ask him about that barge in St. Mary Parish that's near and dear to him. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.